Alright class, so last time what we did is we basically added some randomness to our frosting, and a couple things I want you to remember here. When you hit O, it toggled on your proportional modifier. You usually don't want that on, so make sure that we hit O again, and I'll turn that kind of blue circle back into the grayed out circle, which is what we want. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to actually start working on our mug. And how we do that, we're just going to hit Tab to get to object mode. I'm going to hit a new layer. So I'm going to click here at the bottom left, and I'm basically working in the same space, but it declutters stuff, and I can put those layers together eventually when I want to. And what I want to do is I want to kind of work this this mug from an image that I pulled off the internet. And so I'm going to hit the letter N, and this is going to bring up a couple different pieces for me. But I'm going to go to background image. I'm going to click that box, and I'm going to hit add image. And I'm going to find the image by hitting open. And my images happen to be on my desktop in my Blender projects folder. And I've got really a bunch of different pictures that exist. I'm going to go with the mug. I'm going to hit open image. And I can't see it. Usually a combination of 3, 7, and 5 will make it show up. So I just hit 3, 7, 5. And there's my mug. And cool, it's got a little chip at the bottom. That's kind of a neat thing. Okay, so I've got this in here, and I only really want it to be worked in the front view. That's it. I don't want a top view of it, and so I need to make sure that I get that to work. So in here, I need to make sure I change the axis instead of all views to just be in the front view. So I click front, it disappears, and the reason it disappeared is because I'm not in the front view. I go to front view by hitting 1, and there it shows up, so we're good. And so what I want to do from here is I want to basically give the general shape of this object. And the general shape looks like it's a cylinder. So I'm going to hit Shift A, and I'm going to go down to cylinder. And remember, when we add the cylinder in here, we can actually change a bunch of stuff right away, like the number of vertices. And I do want to have less than what we had initially. So I'm going to work with 18. I think that's a good number. I can change the radius of this, basically making it skinnier or fatter if I want to. I can change its depth, and then I can also change the location of this object. And so instead of grabbing this by hitting G and then moving it around, I'm actually going to change its location because I think that'll actually kind of help me out a little bit. So that doesn't appear to be doing much for anything for me. I'm going to hit 0. But what happens if I do that? Ooh, that looks better. Cool. And then looks pretty centered to me, so it looks good. So maybe what I want to do here is I want to change its depth. Yeah. And then change its radius to make it fatter. And then what I can do is I can just basically keep on, messing with this until I have it roughly to where I want it at. And that looks okay. I'm going to make it go down a little. All right, cool. So I'm going to make mine a little bit taller here as well. So I'm going to change its depth. Okay. Now I can do all those things actually out here if I want to. I can scale this, and I scale things by hitting S. And then I can scale these things along the Z-axis, which is doing what I just did right there. I'll hit escape. I can hit S. I can scale along the X-axis, which makes it skinnier. And I can scale it, and I make it different on the Y-axis as well, which the Y-axis is basically giving it its depth. So cool. If I move this around, I can see a nice round object, which is what I want. And I do want to change a couple things on here. This is really wide, if you will. And what I want to do is I actually want to change it because I want it to be narrow at the bottom and then wider at the top. And so how I do that, I could certainly get to here, and I could get to edit mode because that's what I want. And I'm going to get and click on the edge here. I'll hit option. I'll click on this edge. So it lets me select that face. So again, how I did that is I held the Alt or Option key, and then I clicked in between these two vertices, basically along this face right here. I'll hit 1, and you'll see that I've got that selected. And I can hit S, and I can scale this thing in basically if I want to. So I'm going to kind of try to find a spot that I think is appropriate, which is cool. And then I'm going to do the same process at the top. So I'll hit Option or Alt and then click. I'll hit 1, And then I'm going to scale that. I'm going to make that much wider. Okay. All right, that looks good to me. And there's a couple other things that we certainly could do off of this mug, but I think that again looks pretty good so far. So good.